Ambassador Chen Wei stood in the center of the council chamber, feeling the weight of 1,000 hostile eyes upon her. The chamber was massive, built to accommodate 12 different alien species, each more ancient than humanity could imagine. Above her, the crystalline form of High Counselor Vexthan pulsed with cold blue light. The being had lived for 3,000 years and looked at Chen the way a human might look at an insect. The human speaks. Vexthan's voice echoed through translation devices. We shall listen, though your words change nothing. Chen took a deep breath. She had been Earth's ambassador for 5 years now, fighting every day for humanity's right to exist as equals. It never got easier. The other species saw humans as children playing with matches, dangerous and stupid in equal measure. Honorable Council, Chen began, keeping her voice steady. Humanity requests permission to establish 3 new colony worlds in the Outer Sigma region. We have surveyed these planets. They are uninhabited and rich in resources. Our population needs room to grow. A deep rumble came from the Korath section. Supreme Marshal Thexvalon rose from his seat, his massive body covered in thick scales that had seen 1,000 battles. The Korath had ruled their empire for 10,000 years. They did not like newcomers. Denied, Thexvalon's voice boomed. Humans expand too quickly. You have been part of this council for only 50 years. 50. My species had not yet left our home system in such short time. You demand more and more, always pushing boundaries. This ends now. Chen felt her heart sink, but she kept her face calm. Marshal, we have followed every rule. We have paid every tax. We have contributed to Council defense forces. What more must we do to be treated fairly? The crystalline High Counselor pulsed brighter. Humanity must learn patience. You must learn your place. We have decided. The Council will vote on new restrictions for the human species. You will surrender half your military fleet. You will accept observers on all your worlds. You will stop expanding for the next century. The chamber fell silent. Chen felt ice in her veins. This was worse than she had feared. You cannot be serious. You are asking us to become prisoners in our own territory. We are telling you what will happen, Vexthan said. The vote will proceed. You may leave now, Ambassador. This does not concern you anymore. Chen wanted to scream. She wanted to rage at the injustice. But she was a diplomat. She bowed her head slightly and walked out of the chamber with as much dignity as she could manage. As the doors closed behind her, she heard the voting begin. She did not need to stay to know the result. In her private quarters, Chen activated the secure quantum link to Earth. The face of Admiral James Okonkwo appeared on the screen. The old military man looked tired. He always looked tired these days. They voted against us, didn't they? He asked. Worse. They are voting right now to strip us of our fleet and put observers on every human world. James, they are going to cage us. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed. How long do we have? They gave us 1 Earth week to comply. 7 days to surrender everything we have built. And if we refuse? Chen looked directly at the camera. Then they will use force. Thexvalon made that very clear. They call it correction. I call it war. Okonkwo nodded slowly. I will inform the President. Chen, come home. There is nothing more you can do there. Across the galaxy, on a military station orbiting Mars, Captain Sarah Ramirez watched the news with her command crew. The feed was official now. The Galactic Council had voted. Humanity had 7 days to comply or face military action. They are actually going to do it, her first officer said quietly. They are going to attack us. Ramirez stood up from her chair. Then we prepare. All ships full combat readiness. I want every weapon system checked. I want every shield generator at maximum power, and I want our people ready to fight. Captain, her tactical officer spoke up. We cannot win against the entire Council fleet. They have thousands of ships. We have maybe 300 combat-ready vessels. I know the numbers, Lieutenant, Ramirez said sharply, but we are not going to surrender. If they want our freedom, they will have to kill us to take it. Deep in a secret research facility on Europa, Dr. Yuki Tanaka stared at rows of weapon systems that humanity had promised never to build. They were weapons banned by galactic law, weapons that the Council species found horrifying and barbaric. But humanity had built them anyway, hidden away just in case. Doctor, her assistant said nervously, we just received the activation codes. Protocol Ragnarok is now live. Tanaka felt sick. She had hoped this day would never come. These weapons were designed for one purpose only, Total war. No mercy, no limits, no rules. She thought about her daughter, safe at home on Earth, playing in the garden. She thought about all the children across human space who deserve to grow up free. Begin the deployment sequence, she said quietly. If they bring war to our doorstep, we will show them what war truly means. 7 days passed like a countdown to doomsday. The Council gave humanity chance after chance to surrender. Each time, Earth's answer was the same: no. On the 7th day, Admiral Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the UNSC flagship Indomitable, Captain Ramirez at his side. They watched the sensor screens with grim expressions. The entire human fleet had gathered near Earth. Every ship they had ready for the impossible fight ahead. "Admiral," the sensor officer called out. "Slip space ruptures detected. Multiple signatures. Thousands of them." The view screen lit up with warnings. One by one, the ships of the Galaxy fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel. They came in waves, each wave larger than the entire human fleet. 10,000 warships from 12 different species, all converging on human territory. Supreme Marshal Thexavalon's face appeared on every communication screen across human space. The old Korath looked almost sad. "Humans of Earth," he began, "you have refused the wisdom of the Council. You have chosen pride over peace. Your species is too dangerous to be allowed to continue on this path. By the authority of the Galactic Council, I hereby sentence humanity to correction. Your civilization will be reduced to a pre-industrial state. Your weapons will be destroyed. Your ships will be scrapped. Your colonies will be abandoned. This is mercy. We could choose extinction, but we are not monsters. Surrender now and casualties will be minimized. Resist and you will be crushed." The transmission ended. For a moment, there was total silence across the human fleet. Then Admiral Okonkwo spoke. His voice broadcast to every human ship, every human colony, every human listening across the stars. All ships, battle stations. Today they learn what humans are made of. Today we show them that we will never kneel. Today we fight for our freedom or we die trying. For Earth, for humanity, for our future. The Galaxy fleet began its approach. Humanity's tiny fleet moved forward to meet them. The first shots would be fired within the hour, and nothing would ever be the same again. The first missiles struck the outer colonies without warning. On New Perth, a mining colony of 2 million souls, the sky turned red as orbital bombardment began. The colonists had 12 minutes to reach the shelters. Most did not make it. Captain Sarah Ramirez watched the sensor feed from her ship and felt rage burning in her chest. "They are targeting civilians first," her tactical officer said, voice shaking with anger. "The mining stations, the agricultural colonies. They are killing everyone. They want to break our will," Admiral Okonkwo's voice came through the fleet channel. "They think if they hit us hard enough, fast enough, we will beg for mercy. All ships engage defensive pattern Delta. Protect what we can." The human fleet split into defensive groups, rushing to intercept the Council forces. But the numbers were impossible. For every human ship, there were 30 alien vessels. The Council had brought overwhelming force, and they used it without hesitation. Ramirez's ship, the UNSC Indomitable, led a squadron toward a Korath battle group that was heading for the Mars shipyards. Mars was humanity's greatest military production facility. If it fell, humanity lost its ability to build new ships. "All weapons, fire at will," Ramirez commanded. "Target their flagship." The Indomitable unleashed everything it had. Railguns fired solid slugs at incredible speeds. Missiles streaked across space, leaving trails of light. Energy beams cut through the darkness. The Korath flagship's shields flared bright blue as it absorbed the attack. Then it fired back. The return fire was devastating. Korath plasma weapons, refined over 10,000 years of warfare, punched through the Indomitable's shields like they were paper. Ramirez grabbed her chair as the ship shook violently. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12.
"Shield generators failing."
"We cannot take another hit like that." Around them, human ships were dying. The cruiser Valiant exploded in a ball of fire. The destroyer Hawk broke in half, its crew venting into space. The frigate Damascus tried to ram a Korath ship in a desperate final act, but was vaporized before it could reach its target. "All ships fall back," Okonkwo ordered, his voice heavy with grief. "We cannot hold this position. Retreat to Rally Point Gamma. Mars shipyards initiate self-destruct protocol. Do not let them take it intact." Ramirez wanted to argue, wanted to stay and fight, but she knew the Admiral was right. They were being slaughtered. The surviving human ships turned and ran, using every trick they knew to escape. Behind them, the Mars shipyards exploded in a series of massive blasts, taking a dozen pursuing Korath ships with them. On Earth, billions of people watched the sky with terror. The Council fleet had reached orbit. Ships the size of cities hung above every major population center. Then the bombardment began. New York vanished in nuclear fire. Tokyo, London, Mumbai, São Paulo all burning. The defense satellites fought back, but they were swept aside like toys. Luna Base, humanity's oldest off-world settlement, went dark as enemy troops stormed through the corridors. In underground bunkers, President Maria Santos watched the death toll climb. 3 billion people dead in 48 hours, 3 billion souls gone in the blink of an eye. She felt numb, disconnected from reality. This could not be happening. This could not be real. Madam President, her military advisor said quietly, we are receiving surrender requests from 17 colony governors. They want to stop the killing. Santos looked at him with hollow eyes. Tell them to do what they must to save their people. I will not order anyone to die needlessly. And Earth, Madam President, the Council is demanding your personal surrender. They want you to broadcast a message telling all humans to lay down their arms. Santos stood up slowly. She walked to the window of the bunker, looking at a screen showing the devastated surface above. The planet she loved, the home of humanity, was burning. No, she said simply. We do not surrender. Not while I draw breath. In the asteroid belt, the surviving human fleet regrouped. Admiral Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the damaged Indomitable, counting his losses. Of 300 ships, only 83 remained combat-capable. They faced an enemy of 10,000. Admiral, Captain Ramirez approached him, her uniform torn and blood-stained. What do we do now? We cannot fight them head-on. We cannot protect our colonies. Earth is under siege. We have lost. Okonkwo turned to look at her. The old man's eyes were hard as steel. We have not lost, Captain. We have only just begun to fight. Sir, I do not understand. We are beaten. Our cities are in ruins. Billions are dead. How can we possibly... They think they have won, Okonkwo interrupted. They think we will surrender now. They think this is over. But they made a mistake, Captain. A fatal mistake, and what mistake? They left us alive. They should have killed every last human in the first strike. They should have destroyed us completely. Burned every world, killed every person. But they tried to be merciful. They tried to follow their rules of war. Now they will learn that humans do not play by rules. He activated his command console and entered a long sequence of codes. Across human space, hidden facilities came online. On Europa, Dr. Yuki Tanaka watched as weapon systems powered up. In deep space caches, automated systems began moving toward their targets. On occupied colony worlds, resistance cells received activation orders. Initiate Protocol Ragnarok, Okonkwo said clearly. Authorization Okonkwo, Alpha 77 Delta. All systems activate. God help us all. On the occupied colony of New Perth, a Korath patrol moved through the ruins of the city. The soldiers were bored. The fighting was over. Humans had proven to be weak, easily defeated. One of the soldiers kicked at debris, looking for anything valuable. Then the ground beneath them exploded. Buried human mines, activated remotely, tore the patrol apart. Before the Korath could react, human guerrillas emerged from hiding, firing weapons, throwing grenades, then disappearing back into the ruins. This happened on 100 worlds simultaneously. In orbit above Earth, a Council medical ship suddenly lost all power. Then another. Then 5 more. The ships went dark, floating dead in space. Human hackers, using programs developed in secret over years, had infiltrated the Council's computer networks. They were not trying to destroy the ships. They were trying to create fear and confusion. It worked. Supreme Marshal Thex Valon stood on his flagship, reading reports with growing disbelief. Humans were attacking everywhere at once. They were not fighting like soldiers. They were fighting like cornered animals, using tactics that the Council found shocking and barbaric. Suicide attacks, chemical weapons, biological warfare, computer viruses, booby traps in their own cities. These humans are insane, his second-in-command said with horror. They have no honor. They do not follow the rules of war. Thexevalon felt something he had not experienced in centuries: uncertainty. They do not care about honor. They only care about survival, and that makes them far more dangerous than we realized. In the asteroid belt, Admiral Okonkwo watched the reports flow in. Human counterattacks were causing chaos among the Council forces. It was not enough to win. Not yet. But it was enough to make them pause, enough to make them doubt. He turned to address his remaining fleet. They came here thinking they would teach us a lesson. They came here thinking they were superior. Now we teach them something. We teach them that humanity does not surrender. We teach them that attacking Earth was the worst mistake they ever made. And we teach them that from this moment forward, this is total war. No mercy, no rules, no surrender. We fight until we win or until we are extinct. Are you with me? Every single officer on every remaining ship answered as one. Yes, Admiral. Then let us show them what humans are truly capable of. Prepare for Operation Vendetta. We strike at their supply lines, their colonies, their homeworlds. If they want war, we will give them war like they have never seen before. As the human fleet prepared to move, a message went out across all human frequencies. It was simple, direct, and terrifying in its promise. If they wanted us extinct, they should have finished it. Now it is our turn. The Council forces thought they had won. Supreme Marshal Thexavalon ordered his fleet to consolidate their positions, secure the conquered human colonies, and prepare for final occupation of Earth. It was a routine operation, the kind his species had performed 1,000 times before. Conquer, occupy, integrate. Simple. Then humanity showed them how wrong they were. The first convoy never reached its destination. 20 supply ships carrying food, medicine, and equipment for occupation forces simply vanished. No distress calls. No wreckage, just gone. Search teams found the ships 3 days later drifting in space. Every Council soldier aboard was dead, killed by a colorless, odorless gas that had been pumped through the ventilation systems. The human crew had all escaped in the life pods. They killed prisoners? Thexavalon said with shock. We treated those human crew members well. We followed the rules of war. His intelligence officer looked uncomfortable. Marshal, the human crew were not prisoners. They volunteered. They knew the gas would kill everyone. They sacrificed themselves to destroy our supplies. Thexavalon stared at the report. What kind of species killed themselves just to hurt the enemy? What kind of madness was this? The attacks continued and escalated. On the occupied colony of Theta 5, Council forces settled into their garrison. That night, the entire water supply was poisoned. Not fatally, but enough to make every soldier violently ill. While they were sick and unable to fight, human resistance fighters struck, stealing weapons and equipment before vanishing into the wilderness. On Zeta Station, a seemingly friendly human janitor spent 3 months cleaning Council facilities. Then one day, he walked into the command center and detonated explosives hidden in his cleaning cart. He died, along with 30 Council officers. The station's command structure collapsed overnight. Captain Sarah Ramirez led a strike force of 15 small ships against a Council fuel depot. They did not fight fair. They disguised their ships as debris, drifting close to the depot before powering up and firing at point-blank range. The depot exploded, taking 47 Council ships with it. Ramirez's force lost 3 ships, but she considered it an excellent trade. The Council species were horrified by human tactics. The Vexithari, crystalline beings who valued logic and order above all else, could not understand the chaos humans created. The elegant seraph, who fought with honor and nobility, found human methods disgusting and barbaric, but most disturbing were the weapons humans used. Dr. Yuki Tanaka had spent years developing weapons that the Galactic Council had banned as too horrible for civilized warfare. Now she unleashed them without hesitation. Nanomachines that could dismantle metal at the molecular level, turning ships into dust. Bioweapons designed specifically for each Council species, non-lethal but incapacitating. Computer viruses that could infiltrate any system, no matter how secure. The Vexithari suffered most from the computer attacks. As a networked species that shared a collective consciousness, they were vulnerable to digital warfare. Human hackers found ways to inject false information into their network, causing confusion and panic. Some Vexithari began seeing hallucinations, their crystalline minds unable to distinguish real data from fake. This is not war, High Counselor Vexithon complained to Thexavalon. This is terrorism. This is barbarism. Humans do not fight with honor. No, Thexavalon agreed grimly. They fight to win, and they are very good at it. Admiral Okonkwo studied the tactical maps with satisfaction. The Council fleet was bleeding from 1,000 small cuts. They had the numbers, they had superior technology, but they did not have the will for this kind of fight. They were used to quick, clean wars between civilized species. They were not prepared for an enemy that refused to quit, refused to follow rules, and refused to value their own lives above victory. The convoy system is working, Ramirez reported. Every council supply line is under constant attack. Their forces on occupied worlds are running low on everything. Good, Okonkwo nodded. Continue the harassment. I want them paranoid and exhausted. I want them to fear every shadow. Now let us discuss Operation Hellfire. He pulled up a star chart showing the Korath supply nexus at Kragnar Station. It was the main hub for the entire invasion force, a massive station orbiting a gas giant, heavily defended by hundreds of ships and thousands of defense platforms. We cannot take it in a straight fight, Ramirez said. We do not have the firepower. We are not going to fight it, Okonkwo smiled coldly. We are going to destroy it, Dr. Tanaka, if you please. Tanaka stepped forward, displaying schematics for a weapon that made even the human officers uncomfortable. We call it a quantum compressed fusion device. Essentially, it is a hydrogen bomb compressed to the size of a baseball using quantum manipulation. The explosion is significant. How significant? Someone asked. It will destroy everything within 10,000 kilometers. The station, the defense platforms, every ship in the area. Nothing will survive. How do we deliver it? Ramirez asked. Their sensors will detect any ship carrying a weapon that powerful. We do not use a ship, Tanaka said. We use a person. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what she meant. A suicide mission. I will do it, a young lieutenant spoke up immediately. My family died on New York. I volunteer. So do I, another officer said. My children were on Luna base. Within minutes, 30 officers had volunteered. Okonkwo felt pride and sorrow in equal measure. This was what humanity had become. Willing to sacrifice everything for survival. Lieutenant Chen, he chose a young woman with fierce eyes. You will have this honor. May your sacrifice save millions. 3 weeks later, Lieutenant Maria Chen piloted a small civilian shuttle toward Kragnar Station. She broadcast distress signals claiming engine failure. The Korath, following their protocols for handling civilians, allowed her to dock for repairs. They never detected the quantum device hidden in her body, surgically implanted and shielded. Chen walked through the station, marveling at its size. Thousands of council soldiers moved through the corridors, confident in their victory. She felt no hatred for them. They were just following orders like soldiers everywhere. But her family was dead, and humanity needed to survive. She reached the station's main reactor level and activated the device. She had 10 seconds. She used them to look at a photo of her parents killed in the bombardment of New York. For Earth, she whispered. The explosion tore reality apart. Kragnar Station, 2,000 council ships and 300 defense platforms ceased to exist. The shockwave could be detected 3 star systems away. It was the largest single loss the council forces had suffered in the entire war. Supreme Marshal Dex Vallon watched the tactical display in his command center as Kragnar's signal simply vanished. Gone. 2,000 ships, tens of thousands of soldiers gone in an instant. And he knew how it had happened. A human suicide bomber. What kind of enemy does this? He said to no one in particular. What kind of species values death over surrender? His second-in-command had no answer. None of them did. They had fought hundreds of wars, conquered dozens of species, but they had never encountered anyone like humans. Most species, when faced with overwhelming force, surrendered. That was logical. That was rational. That was civilized. Humans were not civilized. Not by council standards. They were wild, unpredictable, and absolutely terrifying when cornered. Reports flooded in from across council space. Human raiders were striking deep into their territory now, hitting targets light years from Earth. A human strike force destroyed a Seraph colony ship carrying 1 million civilians. When the council complained about the attack on non-combatants, Admiral Okonkwo's response was broadcast across the galaxy. You bombed our cities. You killed our civilians. You started total war. Now you complain when we fight back using your own tactics? This is war, real war, not your civilized games. We will use every weapon, every tactic, every strategy to survive. If you do not like it, you should have left us alone. The council species began arguing among themselves. The Seraph wanted to withdraw, calling the war unwinnable. The Vexthari demanded the complete extinction of humanity as the only safe solution. The smaller species were quietly pulling their forces back, unwilling to sacrifice more for what seemed like a losing cause. Only the Korath remained committed. Thexavalon would not admit defeat. Could not admit defeat. His species had never lost a war in their entire history. He would not be the first marshal to fail, but even he was beginning to understand the truth. Humanity could not be conquered, not unless the Council was willing to kill every single human, burn every human world, and commit complete genocide. And even then, he was not sure they could succeed. Humans were too spread out, too stubborn, too willing to die rather than submit. On Earth, in the ruins of what had once been Geneva, Admiral Okonkwo stood with Captain Ramirez and Dr. Tanaka. They looked at the devastated planet, at the billions of graves, at the scars that would take centuries to heal. "We are winning," Ramirez said quietly. "The Council is losing their will to fight." "Yes," Okonkwo agreed. "But at what cost? We have become monsters to defeat monsters."
What happens when this is over?
"What will we be?" Tanaka had no answer. None of them did. They had done terrible things to survive, things that would haunt humanity forever, but they would survive. That was all that mattered now. "We finish this," Okonkwo said with finality. The Galaxy fleet was dying. Not from one massive battle, but from 1,000 small wounds that would not stop bleeding. Every day brought new reports of attacks, sabotage, and casualties. The Council species had never experienced war like this before, and their unity was fracturing under the pressure. In the Council chamber, arguments raged. The Seraph ambassador stood with her wings spread wide, a gesture of extreme agitation among her species. "We must negotiate," she insisted. "This war cannot be won. The humans will fight forever. They do not care about losses. They do not value their own lives. How do we defeat an enemy like that? We destroy them completely." High Counselor Vexthon's crystalline form pulsed red with anger. "We should have done this from the beginning. Total extermination. It is the only way. And become the monsters we claim they are," the Seraph shot back. "My people will not participate in genocide. We withdraw our forces immediately." "If the Seraph withdraw, so do the Lixian," another ambassador announced. "Our casualties are unacceptable. We joined this council for protection, not to die fighting mad humans." Supreme Marshal Thexavalon listened to the chaos with growing frustration. His own species, the Korath, had lost more than half their fleet. The military machine that had conquered a quarter of the galaxy was being beaten by a species that barely had faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. But the worst news was yet to come. "Marshal," his intelligence officer approached nervously. "We have reports from deep space scouts. Human ships. New designs. Dozens of them heading toward our positions." "New ships? How?" "We destroyed all their shipyards. We destroyed the ones we knew about, sir. Apparently, humans have been building secret construction facilities for years. And these ships? You need to see this." The tactical display showed the scans of the new human vessels. They were larger than anything humanity had built before, sleek and deadly looking. But what made Thexavalon's blood run cold were the readings. The shields were stronger than Korath shields. The weapon system showed energy signatures that matched Council technology but improved. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "We believe humans have been stealing our technology for their entire time in the Council," the officer explained. "Every treaty, every meeting, every diplomatic exchange was a chance to copy our designs. And they did not just copy, sir. They made it better." Admiral Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the first human dreadnought, the Vengeance. Behind him, 49 sister ships waited in formation. They were humanity's masterpiece, born from desperation and genius. Every system was an improvement on stolen alien technology. Faster engines, stronger shields, deadlier weapons. "All ships, this is Okonkwo," he broadcast to the fleet. "For months we have bled. For months we have died. For months we have fought against impossible odds. Today we stop running. Today we stop hiding. Today we show them what happens when you try to destroy humanity. All ships full attack speed. Target? Korath home fleet." Captain Ramirez, now commanding her own dreadnought Retribution, felt her heart race. They were going to attack the Korath homeworld itself. It was insane. It was impossible. It was perfect. The human fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading straight into the heart of Korath space. When they emerged, they found the home fleet waiting. Over 3,000 ships defending their ancient homeworld. The Korath commander broadcast a warning. "Human vessels, you are outgunned and outnumbered. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick." Okonkwo's response was to open fire. All 50 dreadnoughts unleashed their weapons simultaneously. The difference from previous battles was immediately obvious. Korath shields, which had easily deflected human weapons before, now flickered and failed under the improved firepower. Ships that had seemed invincible began taking damage. "What is happening?" the Korath commander shouted. "Our shields should hold against their weapons." But they did not hold. Humanity had learned the shield frequencies during years of studying Council technology. They had learned the weaknesses, the gaps, the vulnerabilities. Now they exploited everything. The Vengeance charged straight at a Korath battlecruiser, shields at maximum. The alien ship fired everything it had. The human shields held. Then the Vengeance returned fire, punching through the enemy shields and tearing the battlecruiser apart from the inside. Across the battlefield, human ships fought with terrifying efficiency. They used AI targeting systems banned by the Council but perfected by humans. They used swarm tactics with hundreds of automated drones overwhelming enemy defenses. They used suicide drones that would ram ships if they ran out of ammunition. "Target their command ship," Ramirez ordered. "All weapons, maximum power." The Retribution and 5 other dreadnoughts focused their fire on the Korath flagship. The massive vessel tried to maneuver away, but human ships were faster now. The combined firepower overwhelmed its shields, breached its hull, and detonated its reactor. The flagship exploded spectacularly. Without their commander, the Korath fleet began to falter. Some ships retreated, others fought on stubbornly, but the momentum had shifted. Humanity was winning. On the surface of the Korath homeworld, billions of civilians watched the battle in the sky with terror. For 10,000 years, their species had been conquerors. Now they were being conquered. The feeling was alien and horrifying. Dr. Tanaka watched from a hidden laboratory on Europa as her final weapon activated. It was not a bomb or a virus. It was information. For months, human hackers had been infiltrating Council networks, not to destroy but to steal. Every communication, every military plan, every secret that the Council had. Now humanity released it all publicly. The Vexthari discovered that their High Counselor had been embezzling resources for personal use. The Seraph found out that their military had been conducting illegal experiments on other species. The Lixian learned that their allies had planned to betray them after the war. Every species discovered that the others had been lying, cheating, and scheming. Trust, already damaged by the war, shattered completely. The Council was tearing itself apart from within, and humanity had barely needed to fire a shot to make it happen. "Sometimes the best weapon is the truth," Tanaka said to her assistant. "Let them destroy themselves with their own secrets." Back in the Korath system, Admiral Okonkwo gave the order to cease fire. The remaining Korath ships were fleeing. The battle was over. Humanity had won. "Sir?" Ramirez contacted him, her voice filled with disbelief. "We actually did it. We beat them. We beat one fleet," Okonkwo corrected. "But yes, we have proven the point. We can win. Now comes the hard part." He opened a communication channel directly to the Korath homeworld, broadcasting to their entire population. "People of Korath, your fleet has been defeated. Your homeworld is at our mercy. We could destroy it. We could kill billions as you killed billions of us. But we will not. We are not monsters, though you have tried to make us into them. Instead, we offer you a choice. Peace on our terms, or continued war until one of us is extinct. Choose wisely." Supreme Marshal Thexvalon sat in his command bunker on the homeworld staring at the screen. The human admiral's words echoed in his mind. 50 human ships had destroyed 3,000 Korath vessels. It should have been impossible. But humans had made it possible through sheer determination and innovation. For the first time in his long life, Thexvalon felt true fear. Not fear of death, but fear of what humanity represented. A species that could adapt, learn, and improve faster than anyone else. A species that refused to accept limits. A species that would rather burn the galaxy than surrender. "Contact the Council," he said quietly to his aide. "Tell them the Korath Empire is willing to negotiate terms with humanity." Word spread across the galaxy within hours. The mighty Korath, who had never lost a war, were suing for peace. Other Council species saw the writing on the wall. If the Korath could not defeat humanity, no one could. On Earth, President Santos received the news in her bunker. She had aged 20 years in the past few months. The planet above was in ruins, 6 billion people dead, but humanity had survived. Against all odds, against all logic, they had survived. Madam President, her advisor said with tears in his eyes. They are asking for peace talks. We won. Santos nodded slowly, but she did not smile. We survived. That is not the same as winning. But it is enough. It has to be enough. Admiral Okonkwo gathered his fleet for one final jump, not to attack but to travel to the Council's capital world. Ambassador Chen Wei, who had watched her diplomatic career destroyed at the start of this war, prepared to negotiate again. But this time she would not be begging for scraps. This time humanity would dictate terms. Captain Ramirez stood on the bridge of the Retribution, looking at Earth through the view screen. Her homeworld was scarred and broken, but it was still there. Still spinning, still alive. We did it, she whispered. We actually did it. Yes. Okonkwo's voice came through her communicator. But at what cost? Remember this, Captain. Remember what we had to become to survive, and pray we never have to become it again. The human fleet formed up and jumped toward the Council capital. They went not as supplicants, but as equals. They went not as the defeated, but as victors. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. The question was, would they ever trust humanity again? And did humanity? The council chamber looked different when viewed through the barrel of a gun. Ambassador Chen Wei stood in the center of the room once more, but this time she was not alone. Admiral Okonkwo stood beside her in full military uniform. Captain Ramirez and 50 armed human soldiers lined the walls. Outside, the human fleet surrounded the capital world, weapons ready. The council species watched with fear and resentment. The crystalline form of High Counselor Vexthon pulsed with dark colors. Supreme Marshal Thexvalon sat with his head bowed, the weight of defeat crushing his ancient pride. The other species simply looked tired. The council recognizes Ambassador Chen Wei of Earth, Vexthon said, his voice lacking its former arrogance. You may speak. Chen looked at each council member slowly. These beings had tried to cage humanity. They had killed billions. They had thought humans would break easily, like every other species they had conquered. They had been so very wrong. Honored Council, Chen began, her voice cold and formal. We are here to discuss terms, not surrender terms, peace terms. Let me be very clear about something. Humanity did not want this war. You forced it upon us. You killed our people. You destroyed our worlds. And you learned that we do not break. We do not surrender. We adapt. We fight. And we win. You call this winning? The Seraph ambassador spoke up, her voice bitter. Your homeworld is devastated. Your colonies are ruins. Billions of your people are dead. Yes, Chen agreed. And we would do it again. We would pay that price 1,000 times rather than live as your slaves. That is what you need to understand. Humans will always choose death over submission. Always. Admiral Okonkwo stepped forward, placing a data tablet on the central table. These are humanity's terms for peace. They are not negotiable. You will accept them all, or we continue the war. And let me be clear. We know we can win now. We have proven it. The question is not whether we can defeat you. The question is whether you are willing to watch your homeworlds burn to avoid giving us what we demand. Thexvalon picked up the tablet with shaking hands. As he read, his expression grew darker. These terms are extreme. Are they? Okonkwo asked coldly. You tried to destroy our entire civilization. We could demand the same from you. Instead, we ask only for what should have been ours from the beginning. Justice. The terms were indeed harsh. Complete autonomy for all human space. No council observers, no restrictions, no interference. War reparations totaling 5 trillion credits to rebuild Earth and the destroyed colonies. Return of all human prisoners. And most significantly, a formal apology from the council, acknowledging that the attack on humanity was unjust and illegal. You want us to admit we were wrong? Vexthon's voice was filled with shock. To apologize to an inferior species? We are not inferior, Chen said quietly. That is the lesson you should have learned. We are different. Perhaps we are younger, perhaps we are less advanced in some ways, but we are not inferior, and we will never accept being treated as such again. For 3 hours, the council argued. Some wanted to continue the war, but they were a minority. Most understood that fighting further would only bring more death and destruction. The Seraph had already withdrawn most of their forces. The Lixian were on the verge of leaving the council entirely. The Korath military was shattered. Only pride kept them from agreeing immediately. Finally, Thexvalen stood. The old warrior looked ancient now, worn down by defeat. The Korath Empire accepts these terms. We acknowledge that the attack on humanity was a mistake. We acknowledge that humans have earned their place as equals. One by one, the other species agreed. Some did so willingly, others did so with obvious reluctance. But they all agreed. The war was over. President Santos watched the treaty signing from Earth, broadcast across all human networks. She saw the council members affix their marks to the document, saw the formal apology read aloud, saw humanity finally recognized as equals. She should have felt joy. Instead, she felt only exhaustion. Madam President, her advisor said gently, "We won. It is over. Is it?" Santos looked at the devastated planet around her. "We won the war. But can we win the peace? The galaxy now fears us. They see us as mad dogs, unpredictable and dangerous. They will leave us alone, yes. But they will never trust us. They will never be our friends. We are forever marked as the species that fights too hard, kills too easily, refuses to quit." "Perhaps that is not such a bad thing," the advisor suggested. "Fear keeps enemies away better than friendship ever could." Santos was not sure she agreed, but she was too tired to argue. The Treaty of New Geneva was signed 3 months after the peace talks began. Humanity received everything they demanded. The council species paid reparations, though the payments would take decades to complete. Human space was recognized as sovereign territory, with no interference allowed, and the council issued a formal apology, broadcast across the entire galaxy. But words on paper did not heal the wounds. Earth would take centuries to fully recover. 6 billion people were dead, entire cities erased from existence. The Mars shipyards had to be rebuilt from nothing. Luna Base was a tomb that no one wanted to disturb. The psychological scars ran even deeper than the physical ones. Dr. Yuki, Tanaka, stood in her laboratory looking at the weapons she had created. The bioweapons, the nanomachines, the computer viruses, tools of total war. She thought about activating the deactivation protocols, destroying them all, but her hand hesitated over the control. "Doctor?" her assistant asked. "Are we shutting them down?" Tanaka was quiet for a long moment. "No, we keep them. We keep them all. We hide them, we lock them away, and we pray we never need them again. But we do not destroy them, because now the galaxy knows what we are capable of, and that knowledge is our greatest defense. Will we ever use them again? I hope not. I truly hope not. But if anyone ever tries to destroy humanity again..." She trailed off, but the implication was clear. Captain Sarah Ramirez stood on the rebuilt observation deck of a new Earth station, watching ships come and go. Some were military vessels, still on patrol. Others were civilian freighters carrying supplies to help rebuild. She had been promoted to admiral now, given command of the new defense fleet. A young officer approached her. "Admiral, the new recruits are asking questions. They want to know about the war, about what we did. What do you tell them?" "I tell them we did what we had to do to survive." "But Admiral, they look at us like we are heroes, like what we did was glorious." "But it was not glorious, was it?" Ramirez looked at the young officer with sad eyes. "No, it was necessary. It was survival. But it was not glorious. War never is. We killed millions. We used weapons that the galaxy considers monstrous. We sent people on suicide missions. We did terrible things, and yes, we survived because of it. But we paid a price for that survival, a price that will haunt us forever. Do you regret it?" "I regret that it was necessary. I regret every life lost on both sides. But I do not regret fighting. I do not regret surviving. Given the same choice again, I would do it all over again. That is what it means to be human. We do what must be done, and we live with the consequences. Across the galaxy, the council species struggled to understand what had happened. How had they been defeated by such a young species? Military analysts studied the battles, trying to learn lessons. Philosophers debated the nature of humanity. Politicians argued about future policy toward Earth. But most ordinary citizens simply felt relief. The war was over. Humans had proven to be too dangerous to fight, so they would be left alone. Perhaps in time, relationships could normalize. Perhaps humans could become trading partners, even allies, or perhaps they would remain the galaxy's dangerous outsiders, respected out of fear rather than friendship. On Earth, in the ruins of what had once been Geneva, a memorial was built. 6 billion names were carved into black stone, one for each person who had died in the war. It took 3 years to complete. At the dedication ceremony, President Santos stood before the massive wall of names and spoke to the survivors. "We paid a terrible price for our freedom," she said, her voice carrying across the silent crowd. 6 billion souls lost, cities destroyed, our beautiful planet scarred. We did things we are not proud of. We became something dark and terrible to survive. The galaxy now fears us, perhaps rightly so. She paused, looking at the names stretching into the distance. But we survived. We are still here. We are still free. And that freedom, purchased with so much blood, must never be taken for granted. We must rebuild. We must heal. We must become better than we were forced to be during the war. But we must also remember. Remember what we paid. Remember what we did. Remember that humanity will never kneel to anyone. The crowd stood in silence, each person touching the wall, finding the names of loved ones lost. Admiral Okonkwo stood at the back of the crowd, an old man now, his hair white, his face lined with age and sorrow. He had led humanity to victory, but the cost weighed on him every day. He thought about every order he had given, every life he had spent like currency to buy survival. Was it worth it? Someone asked beside him. He turned to see Chen Wei, also aged by the war, also carrying the weight of difficult choices.